eye that have access to it. And then let's get this. It's so slow when I press that button. There we go. So what we're going to look at is releasing your fears, looking at self-limiting beliefs that will hold you back from having a more positive menopause experience. And this isn't saying that where you're feeling pretty crappy, that that's not a valid experience. It's just showing you some of the ways that things you hear, people you talk to, things you read or watch, how they can have an impact on what you're feeling about where you are and what you're experiencing. So aims and objectives, we're going to build that knowledge. We said before, one of the things for you in terms of managing your experience is building that knowledge, doing that research. So we're going to talk about some of the myths. There's a whole stash of them, and I picked out 10 of the most common ones. We're going to talk about those and look at whether they are ones we've heard of, whether they impact us. We're going to look at your menopause mindset, how you're thinking about your experiences and how that can impact how you're actually physically and emotionally experiencing it. Look a little bit at some self-limiting beliefs, because again, those can come into play. They could be things like you've heard, like your doctor saying to you, you're too young. First off, it limits how you're going to experience things. And then look at what could we do to start to think and visualize a positive experience. Again, that's really difficult when you're in the midst of feeling pretty yucky. So again, it's not saying because you're feeling yucky, you're not positive. It's just
horrible, because you walk around feeling really sad, but then you go out there and you know I could go to the post office and they're all way older than me and they must be going through it. Like, why do you look so happy?
Yeah. I can cry at the slightest thing. Yeah. I found myself today, I sat down to have a cup of tea, put the TV on, husband was out, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna be really, really bad. I'm gonna take half hour out and I'm gonna watch a Friends episode, just because that's the kind of thing I do. And it was the last episode, so that's always going to be sad. And I'm like, no, I've seen this so many times, I'm not going to cry. But I'm sitting there going, and then in between, in the advert break, they had a thing about the RSPCA and dogs and animals being left at Christmas, and because of the cost of living crisis. Oh my God, I was in tears. I was thinking, why am I doing this? There's no reason at all. But it is suddenly your emotions are right there at the front, and you get caught out by them. Equally, I get just as angry on the turn of a sixpence for no reason. And it is just, there is sometimes no control in it. And I sit there and I say, even now, I say to myself and my husband, I must be going mad. It's like, no, I'm not. This is just part of it. Yeah. And when I can do that, I can calm myself back down again. And it's just accepting it and having a bit of a giggle about it. But when you're early into it, it's quite difficult to do that. So this is about you being able to get balance. Some of these techniques might not work, or you might not be in the right place to use them now, but it's something that you can have and look back on and use as you go along, because it will get better.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough. It will get better. It might be messy and it might take a while to get better, but it will. You will suddenly wake up and go, like I did, oh my God, I've not had a night sweat in ages. I've not had sleepless nights. And you don't notice that that's happened. So it's just hanging on to that. This is temporary and you will get through it without a doubt. So let's talk about some myths. Tell me some of the things people have said to you or you've read or heard about menopause, good and bad.
Some of the bad stuff is about obviously HRT can bring on ureterian prone cancers, which I know it sort of can, but to what extent? Like the blood clots, a lot of it's mainly HRT, I think. And then it brings on dementia as well. no one's really said anything bad because no one's really talking to me about it. It's probably what I've seen
Yeah,
and read.
yeah,
What I've read, like I said, I was in that Facebook group and there was thousands of women in it, and I've left the group because
yeah,
they were scaring me. Some of the stuff they were
yeah,
saying. Check your what did she say? Check your vitamins, or what is it? Calcium.
yeah.
So check your calcium levels. Just got back from hospital and I'm being tested. It's more deadly than high cholesterol and something else. And I was like, oh my God, another thing to be
Yeah.
worried about.
This is the problem. There's lots of support groups. It's finding the place that you trust. So
I did,
always get a trusted source, whether it's an NHS. NHS is really good. There's a lot of trying to think, the Davina McCall books are really
yeah,
good.
I've listened to hers. I've listened to the whole thing, and if I think something happening to me now, and I need to listen again, I go back and re-listen just to sort of settle me down a bit and be like, oh, that's fine because that's happened to
Yeah.
other people.
And if you find that the support group you're in is creating more stress and anxiety,
It did. I left.
leave it. Leave
I
it.
did.
Exactly. So
Yeah, no,
on that one where, oh, calcium is more deadly, it's not. Actually, the biggest health risk to women postmenopausal is cardiovascular, the risk of strokes and heart attacks. And some of that is because as we've got older, we've not been eating particularly well, we've not exercised, so we've put on weight, our systems are overloaded. As your estrogen drops, the bad cholesterol can go up. So if we don't change the way we eat, yes, we're going to have cholesterol. The percentage of women over the age of 60 that are on cholesterol tablets is huge in this country, but they don't all die from it.
no.
The next biggest risk is diabetes. Yes, bone density does reduce or can reduce as we age, and osteoporosis is a risk, but it's about third or fourth on the list.
Yeah.
And again, you can do things about that. If you're exercising, if you're doing strength training, if you're walking, if you're adding vitamin C and vitamin D and calcium to your diet, you're already taking a multivit that will have that in there.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about it.
No,
it's not a killer, but it
no.
is one of the things that can happen to us.
Yeah. It's horrible because I feel like, I don't know, like I've been told I'm going through it. I feel like suddenly I've got all this extra worry. And I was like, everybody goes through it. And it's like, I shouldn't have to worry about all this at 40.
Yeah. And this is what this is all about.
Yeah.
It is something every single woman in the world will experience menopause, whether it is surgically induced or natural. And actually, we shouldn't be afraid of it. No. It's a natural biological process that our bodies are meant to go through. It's how we react to it and actually how our lives either take it on board or don't. That's the important thing. So in terms of myths, I will talk about 10, but the problem is there are so many, it's unreal, and they grow legs and they have a life of their own, so they can take over. And what you need to do is find that truth. So the best thing to do, as we've said, is just ignore them. If you can't find the truth about them, ignore them. And if they're not impacting you, ignore them, because they will make you be really fearful of things. And that's not going to help you. It will increase anxiety and it will just make you feel really bad.
Yeah.
The best way to get round and to ignore the myths is to build up your knowledge about menopause, what it is and what it isn't, and learn what you can do to help yourself and how you can counter those negatives with a more positive mindset. And that will help your experience. It is that thing of, if we expect to go into something and have heard bad stuff, we're going to expect it to be bad. So the chances are it will be. We go into it thinking, you know what, this is just a natural thing and it's going to open up all sorts of opportunities for me. we're going to feel better about it. So here we go. Let's give you some of these. I call them myths, half-truths, and old wives' tales. And some of them do have an element of truth to them, but they're nothing to be afraid of. So I've got my top 10. You know this one. Menopause automatically starts at age 50. It doesn't. The average age is 51, but that's menopause. That is the moment that your periods have stopped for a year. You've got all the messiness beforehand. And that can start anything from some ladies, unluckily, at the age of 35, 36. There's even a lady in her 20s. So there is no hard and fast rule on what age you will go into menopause. It will be predicated on hereditary, family history, and your own fertility and period journey. So when your doctor says you're too young, they don't know what they're talking about. That is the first thing they'll say. That's for you to then say, no, you're wrong, and push it. In menopause, women can still get pregnant. They can't. Menopause, if you remember, is that moment when you've not had a period for 12 months. That means you haven't ovulated. When you're in perimenopause, as you are, because you haven't reached that milestone, you can get pregnant. You may not be ovulating on a regular monthly basis, but you still will be. So it's really important to actually be aware of that. So if you don't want to extend your family, make sure that you're still using contraception. And it doesn't matter if you've not had a period for, say, 4 months, you could still ovulate the next month. It's only after 12 months that you're unlikely to be ovulating. There's no relief from hot flushes and night sweats. Absolute rubbish. There is. There are things that you can do. You can either take supplements, or you can supplement your diet with phytoestrogens, things like that. And we'll talk about that in the nutrition one. That will help you to reduce those. There's also, if you're able to reduce your stress and anxiety, that will reduce the incidences of hot flushes. Night sweats, again, having a good bedtime routine, making sure it's not too hot in there and you've got cotton sheets, things like that can actually help. And again, there's lots of supplements that really make a difference. So there is relief from them. You don't have to go through them. And obviously HRT can be a massive one that can help there. Menopause automatically means weight gain. This is a little bit of a half truth. It doesn't automatically mean you'll gain weight, but it means you could do because of the changes that your body's going through, which also happen usually at the time when other systems in your processes in your body aren't as efficient at burning calories. But if you're eating a healthy diet, you're keeping a check on all those sugary things and things like that that are going to make us put on weight, and you're moving your body and you're exercising, you shouldn't actually gain that much weight at all. If you gain some weight, you'll know why and you'll be able to fix it. And a lot will say you can't lose weight through menopause. When you get your menopause belly, you can't lose it. You can, it just takes a little bit longer. You have to be a bit more persistent with it.
Yeah.
Women in menopause have to pee all the time. They don't have to. They might feel the need to. They don't have to. And this is totally because as we go through menopause, estrogen is the means for taking collagen and things like that around our body. So our cells have got water and collagen. We start to lose that as we go through menopause, and therefore the cells, both internally and externally in our skin, can start to dry out. It means they're not as good at closing off the bladder and things like that. So you can potentially start to see stress incontinence. But if you do pelvic floor exercises, if you do Pilates and yoga and just work on that area, the pelvic floor really readjusts and responds really quickly. So you might feel the urge to pee, but you won't need to. And actually, one of our sessions towards the end, I bring in a lady who is a pelvic health specialist. So she'll talk a lot about what's going on. Your sex drive will disappear completely after menopause. It won't disappear. And in some women, actually, it increases. So some go the opposite way. But actually, because obviously sex drive is very much linked with testosterone and the whole fertility journey, your body and your brain are now saying, well, we're now not at a place where we're here to have children and procreate the survival of the species. So maybe it's not a burning desire, but you can still want to have sex. You can still have a healthy sex life and a sex drive. But again, you just got to work at it, and as you're feeling at the moment, that might be furthest from your thoughts because you don't feel like it. But it doesn't have to always be like that.
No.
If you have a surgical menopause, you won't experience any of the usual symptoms. That is a bit of a half truth because it depends on whether you've had a full hysterectomy or they've left the ovaries in place. If they leave the ovaries in place, you will still go through the same type of menopausal experiences. If you've had a full hysterectomy, then you will go straight to postmenopause. But because you've had that rapid loss of estrogen and progesterone, which are produced through the ovaries, then you'll have your perimenopause as an almighty great blast in one go. So
I went out at the weekend and I bumped into a friend I've not seen for ages, and she's blurred it out. She's like a few months older than me. She's having a hysterectomy, but they're on about trying to leave her ovaries. So if she has her ovaries left, does that mean she'll be in perimenopause?
Yeah.
Oh, so she will be like me then.
Yeah, I would say to her, if she possibly can, encourage the doctors to leave her ovaries in place, because then her body will go through that natural process. She'll still need to have HRT to help her, but if you take the whole lot away, it's a much more radical approach, and the symptoms can be so severe that it's really as debilitating as the reason why you needed the hysterectomy in the first place. If they can leave the ovaries in place, they're not diseased or dead or anything like that.
I think they're going to check when they open her up. She's bleeding 3 weeks out of the 4, she said, so she's having to have it taken away. Yeah,
that is one of those things. If you can get prolonged bleeding, but if it is for long periods, 2 to 3 weeks, and it's heavy, that is not right. It's often fibroids, or it can be a thyroid issue. If they can't, if it's not that, then they've got to take it away.
Yeah, definitely. They said.
Menopause brings on the blues. A little bit of a half truth. You can feel more anxious as you go through perimenopause and into menopause. And that is simply because of the impact that estrogen has on the release of serotonin. Because estrogen helps the body to release that serotonin, which then brings the levels of adrenaline, which makes you have that fight or flight or anxiety. It brings those levels down. But again, some women don't feel anxious. Being in menopause means you're old. Absolutely not. There you are. You're just 40. You're not old. It doesn't mean you're old. It doesn't mean you're over the hill. And it doesn't mean that's the end of any good life. It actually means that you've got a lot of opportunities open to you, because you don't have to worry about getting pregnant. You don't have to worry and think about periods. So once you get through the messy, you get freed up from all of that. That was my favourite thing, the fact that I never have to buy a tampon ever again, and that I don't need to worry about it. I don't have to check my diary and go, what's the dates and things like that. And it does mean that you can have a more active sex life, and you're not thinking about contraception or anything. You can just really go with the flow much more. And here's one: HRT is dangerous. That is the big one, and the one that you're kind of grappling with. It isn't. The risk, all medications bring a risk to you, but you can mitigate those. HRT has come on a long way since those early days back in the 70s and 80s when you might not even have been born, actually, which is frightening. When actually they were just coming onto the market, they were really synthesized, and they really did have some issues. But most of the research that was done has actually been proven to be a bit not very reliable. So there's lots of different choices of HRT. You do need to think about family history. Is there a history of breast cancer in your family? Is there a history of thrombosis? Have you had any lumps in your breast, or have you suffered with any blood clots?
No.
Or thrombosis? If there's that in your family, then you need to be more careful. But your GP, like mine, I've had thrombosis due to a horse riding accident, so a one-off, and 3 of my aunts have had breast cancer. I've had the gene test and I don't have it, but because of all of that, my GP said, I'm not putting you on oral tablets because they give more hormones in a big concentrated bout. It could be a higher risk, where the bioidentical and the patches and gels and things like that is a much slower release. So you still get what you need, but it's just released slower, so it's not actually as harmful for you.
That why I'm on the patches? I've been 3 weeks now, I think nearly. It's why it's probably just building up.
Yeah,
my anxiety might be the last thing to go.
Yeah, it's quite likely. It is quite likely. It does. You either get an instant hit. So I noticed the change. It felt like almost the minute I put the patch on, whether that was a placebo effect of I've got the patch, everything's brilliant.
Yeah.
But I've known a number of different ladies where it has taken a little bit of time to get the dosage right, to actually start to feel better. If you don't start to feel better after a couple of 2-3 months, go back and ask to change. Or is the amount that you're being given, is that sufficient? Because it may not be.
Yeah.
It can be a bit of trial and error. Yeah. Again, because there is no normal benchmark here and we're all different. So what might work for me might not work for you. You might need a different approach.
I think once I've got managed my anxiety and I've sorted out my head, then I think I'll feel better, because I only notice my twitching now and again. And when I do, I know that's what it is, because that was one of my first signs, I think. My nights completely stopped within about 2 days of HRT.
Good. And that's going to help your sleeping.
Yeah, I'm just not sleeping through the anxiety.
Yeah.
And obviously my ligaments and stuff like that. I haven't slept very well this weekend, but once that settles down, I think I'll be old.
Yeah.
So hoping a couple of weeks I might be a bit more sorted.
Yeah.
Just in time for Christmas. I don't want to be like this over Christmas. I'm absolutely dreading
it. Then the thought is to close your eyes and think, how do I want to feel and be at Christmas time?
Yeah.
And start actually tricking yourself into being like that now.
Yeah.
While one of the sessions we'll talk about that. How do you visualize that? Because you can trick your mind into feeling something different. So it's thinking that, how do I want my Christmas to be? How do I want to feel? And start thinking, attaching emotions and thinking about what can I do to feel that way. And it is that actually the HRT is going to help me. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to feel this, I'm going to feel like that. And then thinking about what can I do to manage my anxiety, because there's things, tools and techniques you can do that will help you with that. Yeah. And then you'll start to feel so much better. If you can get a good night's sleep and manage the anxiety, that will help you as well. And you've got anxiety because you've got the sinus issues and you don't know what they are and you're not getting any help.
No, I had a nosebleed. I'm getting nosebleeds as well now, but I don't know if that's for all the steroid sprays and antibiotics. Okay. I asked for antibiotics and she didn't want to give them, but it was like, I want to try something else. And she gave me. Have you had your
blood pressure tested?
Yeah, I'd literally actually just been to the chiropractor tonight because I was been having problems with my neck over the summer, but it was like a checkup, and my blood pressure, my pulse and my lung function. I think that was it. They did all that and I was perfect.
Good. Because sometimes
So
blood pressure can cause headaches and dizziness in the same way that menopause
yeah,
symptoms can. So being able to cross off things off the list,
yeah, this is
means that
another
you're getting to the bottom of it, and it could be an infection,
yeah.
or it
I,
could be that menopause, estrogen and progesterone are causing it.
yeah. I don't know.
There's a reason. Usually if you follow like Indian chakras and Chinese and like Far East medicine, actually if you've got a blockage here, so your chakras in your head you've got your head, your crown chakra, your third eye, and then your throat. Communication and thinking. So actually the fact that you've got these issues with your sinuses, headaches, and the pain in your neck is saying to you, your body's saying to you, you've got a blockage there. And that could be your anxiety bringing it out.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I can't wait to see the specialist for him to look at my nose and go, absolutely nothing wrong with you. It might just go away there and then.
It might well do. Sometimes being told there's nothing wrong with you, or it's this and it's not serious and we can deal with it.
Yeah.
Suddenly it'll be bingo, clouds lifted.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it will. I know how it works with me. I know that's what it'll be.
Yeah. So we're going to look at fears and self-limiting beliefs. So how would you describe fears? What do fears mean to you? What is fear?
Fear, what my fears or
Just
fears,
generally, just generally.
something that you're worried about and scared of happening.
Yep.
I would say. Yeah.
Yep, definitely. So fear is how we describe an emotional reaction to something that seems dangerous, very simply. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a particular thing or a situation. It can be a feeling or a thought that we're afraid of. So it can be quite tangible and also intangible. But the thing to recognize is that fear is a really basic primeval instinct of ours. It is the instinct to survive. It's what our brain uses to keep us safe, but it's not rational at all. So sometimes your fears can feel so irrational that again you go, I must be going nuts. No, it's just trying to keep you safe, and you can't rationalize it. And it's there for a reason. But the big thing is, because our brains can't distinguish between something that is really going to hurt us, like a house fire, or public speaking, which isn't going to kill us, but we're just afraid of it, it can't distinguish. So it gives you the same reaction. And that's where you can get more anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and real debilitating. I don't know, you can get fight or flight, but the bigger one is freeze. You actually are stuck in one limbo, and it's like, I can't move forward in any of this. And again, as I say, you cannot rationalize it. It's there, and it's there for a reason. Linked to that, you've got self-limiting beliefs. How would you describe self-limiting beliefs?
Is it beliefs that I don't really know how to describe it.
Or give us a situation that you think might be a self-limiting belief.
Would it be if say I don't know, I don't know if I don't know how to describe a situation. I don't know.
Okay, so have you heard of imposter syndrome?
Yes.
That is a self-limiting belief, in that you think, I'm not good enough, I shouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's
so you don't do something. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, all of those are self-limiting beliefs, and they are basically beliefs that we've built up, whether that is because what people have said to us or situations, that actually really keep us rooted in a place that actually means we can't fulfill our highest potential.
Yeah.
They're not
Okay,
often, they're really not often, again, they're like fears, they're not true. There's no evidence for them, but they crop up at the most inopportune moments, and they keep you stuck.
We did something like this at college last week, but it was named slightly different. I don't know what she called it. It might have been the imposter syndrome, and she said that we're doing it on children, that when they get told they're stupid, you can't do this.
Exactly. Yes.
It's just worded slightly different. It was, but
there's all sorts of things. They're the beliefs that we hold that aren't necessarily our beliefs.
No,
we take them on, whether it's through our education, through our culture, through our family.
Yeah.
So I have this one of fear of failure, totally because of my background and my parents always holding me up as the model child, unlike my brother, who was the black sheep of the family. So I constantly feel I'm on a pedestal that is impossible to live up to. I'm not. No. I'm absolutely not. But it holds me back. So if you're afraid of failing, what you do is you stop doing things. And then, of course, you do fail because you're not trying. You limit how you're living. And it's all sorts of things. You're right with children. Oh, you're stupid. And why don't you know how to do that?
Yeah.
I have a girlfriend who is an amazing school teacher for children with special needs. When she was 18, she would have been about that, stayed on at school, wanted to go to university to become a teacher. Her headmistress said to her, "Oh, you're not clever enough to go to university. That's silly. You're not in the top stream. You'll never go to university." So she spent 40 years of her life doing jobs that she hated, until suddenly she had her own daughter and went, "You know what? I don't want my daughter to think like that. I'm going to give it a go." She's got a blooming master's degree now.
Yeah.
But she didn't live her best life because she had taken on a belief from someone else, and that limited her.
So it's self-limiting belief. Okay.
Yeah. So they're simply beliefs that you take on that limit your potential.
Right. Okay. That's
It's the easiest way
to
describe it. And it can be anything. And again, they do crop up as you go through menopause.
Yeah.
That whole thing of, menopause means I'm old. Actually, then you start to live old.
Yeah.
It's kind of really weird.
Yeah. I've started telling more people, but the reason I haven't told loads of people is I do feel old. I do. Like some of his family I've not told because I think I'm the old. There's a few years between me and my husband. I'm older than him. So I think we've always been a bit of a joke that I've got the younger boy, and I just think
you're lucky you've got the toy boy. Enjoy
I think
it.
It's going to be. It's only 3 years between us, but I think it's just going to be another joke on my half, and I'm not ready to take that joke yet.
Then don't.
That's why I've not told them.
You don't have to tell anybody what's going on in your life. You tell who you want to, when you want to, and for your own reasons. And actually, the thing is, if you do tell them and there's a bit of a joke about it, you can actually nip that in the bud.
Yeah.
And it is saying, actually, that's not very helpful. That doesn't mean that. You'll have the knowledge to be able to say to them, it's not true.
Yeah, I'll tell them when I'm ready. They go to Australia for a month too, so I'll tell them when they get back.
But again, it's your journey.
Yeah.
It's your body. You decide who knows what and who you want to tell.
Yeah.
And it's about trusting the other person to be empathetic and not to make a joke out of it or say something really bad.
Yeah.
So again, you don't have to tell them.
No.
To be quite honest, they'll probably do the same as your doctor and say, "You're not old enough, too young for that."
Yeah, they probably will. Yeah.
Which is just as bad because they're dismissing your experience.
Yeah, loads of people are at the minute. I'm avoiding everybody.
You know what? And sometimes that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
surround yourself with the people that are going to empathize and going to help you.
Yeah,
That are going to make you feel better.
Yeah.
Because others you don't need at this point in time.
I don't need them. I'll see them when I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to get you doing a little bit of work here.
Okay.
And this will be in the workbook that comes along.
Yeah.
So normally we would do it as a breakout, but we can have this conversation. This is again about starting to be honest about how we feel about menopause. So if you go on my website, there is a story that I tell about my own experience. I denied that I was menopausal for some time. It's only now that I've come out of that dark place that I'm willing to talk about it and know what happened. So I actually was thinking, not going to happen to me. It's never going to get me. I'm going to be different to everybody else. I'm not going to have it. And I felt like at one point I was running through the woods like Little Red Riding Hood with the big bad wolf that was menopause chasing me. And of course, the thing is, it's always going to get you because that's a natural thing. So I was trying to deny that that was going to happen to me, which meant that as it did happen to me, I felt like I was being run over by a steamroller and I had no control over it. If I had actually sat down and thought differently and gone, you know, I need to accept that this is going to happen. It doesn't mean I'm old. It doesn't mean this. It doesn't mean that. And just accept what is happening to me and learn how to manage it, then I could have had a better experience. But because I had this idea, I didn't want to own up to it because basically my mum had been going on about my sister-in-law, who's about 3 years older than me, and saying, tell she's in the change. Look how she's getting wrinkles. She's getting this, she's getting that. Her skin will get more wrinkly. And I thought, I really don't want to hear this because I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a hot flush now, you see. It's because I'm sitting in my office, which we've now got the heating on, and it's right next to where the boiler and everything is, and I've got lights on as well. So it's not a surprise I'm boiling hot. But it was those sorts of stories that I've been told that meant that I wasn't going into it with a positive mindset. So thinking about that, and I think you kind of said earlier, what sort of stories have you been told?
That you're going to suddenly start getting, like you said, you already mentioned it earlier about putting on weight. You're going to start losing, get more wrinkles quicker. That's why I took collagen straight away. I was like, I'm going to look wrinkly and all my mates aren't. Yeah, just like constant hot flushes. These are all the things that I get told. And we was at college a few weeks ago before I found out, and we was doing a triad, me and this other woman, and she literally just had a hot flush right in front of my eyes. It was like she stepped into a shower.
Yeah.
And it baffled me. She was like, I'm really sorry. She just started making, she was quite nervous about it. And she's like, oh, my heating's broke. And she kept saying, making jokes out of it. And then she started just, then it went like within seconds.
It does that.
Literally, like she just sweat dripping down her face.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, this is what I've got to expect after I found out.
It can be like that.
Yeah.
But actually, the way she said, "Oh, my heating's not working," it's actually true.
Yeah.
Your body, it's your body struggles to kind of regulate temperature, and because there's so much activity going on in your brain where it's rewiring, it's that energy boost that happens. So basically, she would have gone through that at that moment, a spike in estrogen, which sets all the energy wires going in your brain. Boom. Hot flushes are usually only this bit.
Yeah,
for
it
that
was.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah. It
I've
amazed me.
I've been in meetings and I can feel the sweat dripping off of my fringe and thinking, I can't do this. And it feels like all my hair sticking to me.
Yeah.
And again, my male boss would see that because then I'm going, all I can think about is my hot flush. I can't remember what I'm talking about, what I'm doing, what I'm meant to do. And before I could get anxious and flustered, he used to then just step in and take over so that I could have a cool drink and calm down. He would take over. He was so good at that point. But I was then thinking, if he notices it, surely everybody else does. Someone would always crack up with a joke, but again, he used to just manage that.
Yeah.
But the joke that your friend, your colleague was saying then is actually quite a good one. Yeah, her internal combustion engine is having a bit of an overheat, basically.
Yeah.
And sometimes dealing with it in that way can stop you dreading those things, because you may not have a hot flush like that.
No.
Some women don't.
Yeah.
You know, I used to wake up at night dripping in sweat head to toe, which I think is horrible.
Yeah, I've only had a couple of those, and then I got my HRT. I got my
Yeah.
HRT proof from being,
Yeah.
but no, I've just woke up a couple of times since, just like with sweaty neck, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, I now go to bed and I tie my hair up, because I used to find my hair around my neck used to make me feel even hotter.
Yeah.
It did, in reality, it didn't, but my brain was telling me that. So I started tying it up. And I found that because my hair's tied up, I sleep better, because I've taken that one concern out of the way. It's really weird. But it's whatever works for you.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, would you say before you went into perimenopause, how did you feel about it? Were you looking forward to menopause? Were you dreading it? Had you not really thought about it?
I hadn't thought about it. I think probably if I'd had a bit of an opinion on it, I might have been a bit more acceptable of it, because I didn't really want to accept that's what it was, even though I knew deep down that's what it was. That's why I wanted them to test me.
Yeah.
But no, I hadn't thought about it. I didn't really think I had to for a few years.
Yeah.
I've always said that I'd probably go through it early because my mum did, and yeah, and I didn't actually think I would though. No, but no, I hadn't thought about it.
And that's
I
sometimes,
didn't know anything about it, so I had nothing to dread
yeah.
other than hot flushes. So I didn't do it. I didn't know nothing about it, so I didn't worry about it. And I think because I didn't know anything about it, this is why once it started to happen, that's why it's probably knocked me off my feet a little bit.
Mm. And you're not alone in that. It happens
Mm.
to a lot of women. We go through life gaily, not thinking about it, because it's not impacting us. And we then notice it when it starts to impact us, when really we should have done the legwork beforehand. But that's just how we work, because we've got busy lives.
Yeah.
You know, that I had a lady on one of my courses who said to me, I'm 55, so I should be postmenopausal by now, but I really don't know where I am, because I've not had any of these feelings. And I'm like, that is fantastic. She said, but I'm coming on this course because I want to learn what it's all about so that I can spot it if it happens. And it's like, no. Don't go looking for it.
Yeah.
You'll know, because certain things will happen to you. Don't go looking for, oh, there's 50 odd symptoms I need to tick off all of these. No, you don't. Some people will only get hot flushes. Some people won't get those. They'll only get night sweats. It's very different for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's like when you get the workbook, it's worth looking at these questions and thinking, actually, do any of these resonate? Have I felt that way? Have I had any emotional reactions? Did I have an emotional thought about menopause before it came up? Is that different now? And actually, what can I do about that? Because again, it's nothing to be afraid of, but because it's a change, we're often afraid of it.
You know, with HRT and all the natural stuff that you can buy, did they not even touch HRT? Is HRT like the best, or a natural stuff that you can buy?
It's a really difficult one, that one. HRT really worked for me, and now some of the natural products are working for me. So they both have their place. You know, we live in a society, in a world where we go to medicine, we go to medication first and foremost, rather than thinking, actually, what's going wrong or what's changing in my body and what can I do to help it? We go, there's something not working right, I need to fix it. whereas actually our bodies know how to fix themselves, but we will medicate to do that because we want that fix really quickly.
Yeah. What about like HRT helps prevent like your brittle bones and your heart disease, and can all these natural remedies do the same?
They can, yes, but not, they will, you probably, if you're using phytoestrogen, so that is plant-based estrogen, if you're using your diet, you've got to eat a lot to get the same hit, basically. So you can do it, but it might take longer. And it's where do you need to function in your life? So my friend, the school teacher, she went on HRT when she was about 42. So she started really early. And I had a bit of an argument with my own mother, who said, oh, I need to go on medication and whatever. Just, soldier on and whatever. And it's like, this is a lady who's a head teacher in a school. And it's a school for children with special needs. She has to be able to function at the highest level. And she's not, because she's anxious and she's not sleeping. She didn't sleep a wink. She would sleep maybe an hour. That was it. She could not function physically and mentally. And she had to for the job that she was doing. So she could put phytoestrogens in and do lifestyle changes. None of that would touch it enough. So she had to be medicated. She had to go and get HRT. And actually, she was really disappointed that she did that. She's like, oh, I don't want to be medicated. And it's like, it's just a natural, it's just helping you. That's all it is. It's just helping your body get over that hump, and that will, it will be better for you. So again, if we're living life quite fast paced. The natural remedies can do it. They may work really well for a short time, and then you need to up it or change that routine to get it to work more. Whereas HRT, 9 times out of 10, bingo, it's done. And to be quite honest, when you're a mum of 4 and you're holding down a job and you're training, all those sorts of things, you need a fast remedy. Because you've got to be functioning at your best more of the time. So HRT is in some respects the wonder drug. Doesn't work for every woman, not all of them want it, and you can supplement with natural stuff, but it's whatever works for you, and that's the key thing. So we're going to look at menopause mindset. Lots of typing here. So there you go, I've said it. Menopause can be a bitch. It's out there. But it can also be quite liberating and empowering and amazing if you're able to get over the fact that she's a bit of a bitch when she wants to be. And it's totally about how we view things, how we are viewing this part in our life. For some ladies, I've said to them, if you think of it as just simply puberty in reverse, you went through all that messiness in your, between the ages of 10 and 14, that was really tough, but actually we all celebrated that. This is just going in reverse. You can celebrate that as well. The less pressure you put on it, the less big you make it, the better you're going to feel. And it's if you can see it as an opportunity, then it's going to help. You've got to get through the messy first. It's a time when you can actually learn a lot more about yourself as well. So our mindset is the beliefs that we hold that shape how we make sense of the world and our place in it. It will influence how we think, how we feel, how we behave in any given situation. So your menopause mindset is simply that, the beliefs you hold about menopause that influence the way that you behave and experience this part in your life. So you can change that. So if you hold beliefs that it's going to be a nightmare, it's going to last for ages and ages, and I'm going to have all these bad things, and I'm going to get fat, and I'm going to be old, and I might as well just give up and put a sack over my head, then you're going to do that. You're going to hide away. If you go, yeah, it's going to be a difficult time because there's so much changing in my body, but there's a lot that I can do to actually help my body and mind to get through this. And I'm going to embrace these opportunities because I can learn more about me through this process. Then you're more likely to go into it looking for the positives, and that will impact your emotions and how you behave. So I talk a lot about feeling invisible at work. So the big thing was somebody else younger than me being brought in and then doing parts of what was my job. And it was like, when I questioned it, it was like, oh, no, she's doing something different. It's like, well, she's not. She's the same grade. And surely I should be doing that because that's in my job description.
Yeah.
Or I would then make a suggestion of something and it would be downplayed. And then 10 days later, the new girl would suggest the same thing and it'd all be, hurrah, fantastic. And I was like, am I speaking a foreign language? And I'm invisible, and I started to feel invisible. So then I started to work from home all the time because then I didn't have to see these people. So they never saw me. And then when I did go into the office, I would dress in darker colours. I've got black on today, but it's got leopard print skirt, so it's a bit different. But I would hide away. I wouldn't put myself forward. So because I felt invisible, I started to act invisible, and then people didn't see me.
Yeah.
So because I held that belief that I was invisible, I acted in that way, and it was self-fulfilling in many respects. So I limited myself because of that belief. And like I say, it's our mindset that denotes how we behave and act in a certain situation. There's something I always say is change the thought, change the behavior.
Yeah.
How we think, so we are. How we think, so we do. And people will react to us because they see your own beliefs, those self-limiting beliefs, are being played out in a movie to them through the way you act. And you don't always recognize that. But actually, if you can stop that and develop a different mindset and see things as an opportunity, then it's going to be better for you.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult when you're in the middle of a hot flush. But if you go, oh my God, I'm in a hot flush, I feel really hot and sweaty, but actually I should be celebrating this because this means my brain's hot wiring. I'm going to be that much faster on things, and I've got loads more thought processes going on. It's finding the positive that you can in all of it. And that's why when you develop a positive mindset, it's really good for you mentally, emotionally, and physically. Negative people that live in the glass half empty scenario of life tend to have more self-limiting beliefs. They're more afraid of life. They don't follow opportunities. They don't take risks and have fun. And they tend to have a lot more physical ailments. It's the same as they say, if you have a cancer patient who is determined not to let it get to them. When you think of Dame Deborah, I know in the end the cancer did get to her, but her positive mindset all the way through that is what actually carried her along through really crappy treatments. If she'd done that whole, well, it's going to kill me anyway, she wouldn't have survived the number of years she did living with bowel cancer.
Yeah.
And it's the same with menopause. You can actually end up shrinking that timeline because you're thinking differently and more positively. And therefore, not all of the symptoms will show up. You might get less of them, or they'll go away quicker.
Yeah.
So
You've gone. Can't see you. I can hear you, but I can't see you.
I do. Oh, I can see me. Yeah, I can see you.
That's really bizarre.
So am I not on camera?
No, it's everything's just gone black on my screen.
Can you see the slide deck?
I can't see anything. That's really bizarre. I've done that. I've got a full battery. It's
That's
really bizarre.
odd. Hang on, let me.
Did this last week as well, didn't it? But I couldn't. We go here now.
There you go. Has that come back?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So let me go back and share and see if it does it. Where am I? Did I get to? So can you see that now?
I can see that now. Yeah.
Yeah. How weird. Zoom has a mind of its own, I'll tell you. So here we've got some tips on how you can develop a positive mindset. First one is, we said, don't believe everything you read and everything you hear.
Yeah.
Arm yourself with knowledge you can trust from reputable sources, and then sift the fact from the fiction. If you can't find evidence to back up the thought, bin the thought. Leave the groups where it's all negative.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with positive experiences, people and situations. So when you said about telling the rest of the family, don't. They don't need to know, and their comments might make your experience worse. So don't tell them. Only tell people who are going to support you.
Like, oh, you're getting old. I know it. I know that's what will come out. At least one of them out.
Then you know what? Don't tell them.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with the people that are going to go, we're here for you, Wendy. You got this.
Yeah.
Change the way you talk about menopause, both importantly to yourself, that internal dialogue, and to others. So we talk a lot about symptoms. I don't always succeed. I try to think of it as experiences or indicators. It's a more positive view. Because when you can control that language, it controls how you feel. So a lot of ladies say, oh, I've been diagnosed with menopause. You don't get diagnosed with it. It's not an illness. You are entering this phase of your life, you know. No. Oh, I've been medicated for menopause. No, you don't get medicated.
Yeah.
You're given hormone replacement therapy to help your body. It's just an added help to correct an incorrect balance of hormones. That's all. So when you can change those things, saying it's puberty in reverse makes it feel less big.
Yeah.
There's something at the moment, there's a National Health Trust, an NHS trust, that's introduced a menopause passport. Lots of ladies and other coaches are hailing this as a fantastic move forward. So it comes from disability passports, so that if you've got a disability, it lists down all of the reasonable adjustments you need, and you simply hand that to your new line manager when you go into a new job. It means you don't have to have that conversation, and they can do all those reasonable adjustments. We've got one for menopause. To me, that is making menopause seem as a disability, which it's not. And it's just, to me, it's not the right connotations. To me, it means something wrong. It's like, we should be able to feel empowered and know that we're getting an empathetic, good listening response to say to our managers, this is where I am in my life, and there's a few things I need.
Yeah.
And it's given hard
as well to play on it as well, isn't it? A lot.
Yeah, and it's like, don't put us into the bucket of a disability. Already there is, in law, the protections for discrimination come through the Disability Act. It's like, no,
we're not going to want to hire women through because they're going through menopause for sick pay.
I know. And it's like a coach that I have a lot of time for, said on LinkedIn, Jeanette, what do you think? And I messaged her separately and said, I'm not joining this debate because I don't agree with it. I can't say anything positive. The only thing I can say is at least someone's looking at it.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, is try and think in a positive light. Take action where you can to improve your physical or psychological, emotional experience of menopause. And that's making those small lifestyle changes, or continuing with the good lifestyle that you've already got. So when you're feeling better, when you're not feeling tired and your sinuses, you've worked out what that is, you can do your exercise. You can start to do mindfulness and meditation to help you to manage your anxiety. It's the small changes that will have the biggest impact for you.
My chiropractor, they do a stress test, you know, where they clip something to your ear.
Yes.
When I went back in the summer, when I didn't know what was going on with my body, and he's been helping me, it was 23 and today it was 55. So it's improved, which was a good sign that everything's going okay in my body as well.
There you go. Those are the little And you need to be celebrating those milestones internally, because
a bit like,
it means so much.
yeah.
And it's those little things that are going to help.
Yeah.
As I said, visualize yourself having that amazing midlife experience. Because if you can visualize it, you can trick your brain into thinking that you're living it. So where you've said, oh, I'm dreading it if I feel this way at Christmas. Okay, switch that around. Write down how you want to feel at Christmas. Looking back at Christmas, how do you want to feel? How do you want your menopause experience to be at that time? And start thinking, start regularly closing your eyes, visualizing it, attaching emotions to it. How do you want to feel? And then start saying, at Christmas, I will do this. And stop that thinking of, I'm dreading it if I feel like this.
Yeah.
You might feel like this, but how can you still make it better?
Yeah.
And if you can visualize it, you can trick your mind into thinking you're there. Positive affirmations around your menopause journey are really, really useful. I don't know if you use positive affirmations anyway, but they can be really useful. These are simple statements that are based on that fit with your values and your belief systems, that actually give you a positive vibe and will help you through difficult stages. So I have one that is, I can help ladies going through menopause, and I do help them. And I focus on that when I'm talking to ladies that are having a really difficult time, to try and help them to normalize that situation. I have one where I use My Story Matters, because so often when I was talking to people, not now, but in the past, I got that feeling of being dismissed. So it's thinking about what could be 5 affirmations, positive things that you could tell yourself, write down and actually focus on, that will make your experience better. It might be something like, this is I feel bad at the moment, but I know it will get better. I know I've got better from where I started. And it's just getting you thinking that way, and that will give you a more positive mindset.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to do those things when you're feeling crappy.
Yeah, it is, but I know that, I know once I'm always up for a bit of a challenge, and in my head I've sort of put a bit of a challenge in my head that I know I can do it. So at the minute I'm on a 10-week challenge with the gym. I just like something to work towards.
Yeah.
So in my head it's something I'm working on, and I know that I'm not a quitter. It took me 6 attempts to pass my driving test. I don't like to quit at anything, so
and you don't have to. You don't have to quit.
No. I want to
you
learn
set your level of challenge, and you set what good looks like and success looks like for you.
And then I'll be my friend. I haven't really, when you're older and you've got a family, you don't really see your friends unless you organise it, do you? So my friends haven't really seen actually what I'm going through text. Is like, oh, you all right? I'm like, yeah, fine. And I don't tell them, so they've not actually seen the worst of it, I don't think. So yeah, I just want to work on carrying on at the gym and learning as much as I possibly can. And I'm speaking about it so much more. And when I told college a couple of weeks ago, obviously I heard about you through college. And another girl, she's about my age, I think she's a year younger than me, and she's had some blood tests on and it kept coming back as negative, but she's showing all the signs. She's gone back and her doctor's actually put her on HRT now.
Yeah.
That's me talking about, and
the way that you're feeling, the changes that you're noticing are a much more definitive indicator than the blood test.
Yeah, that's what they said to her.
A lot of doctors don't bother doing blood tests. When I sit down with ladies, the first thing I say is, so tell me what's changed for you. Tell me what you're experiencing. And then it's like, those are all indicators of it, early indicators.
I just wish
and that's the bigger thing.
Sorry? wish I didn't have health anxiety, because I worry about myself and everybody around me. I don't like health anxiety.
Doing a counselling course, that's not surprising again, because you're doing that because you're empathetic. And when you're empathetic, you can pick up like a sponge on everybody else. So it's learning how to not do that and have that support network. And equally, because you'll be learning about all sorts of different things, you will feel anxious.
Yeah.
I'm like a mental health first aider. I dreamt I was having all sorts of problems because you're learning about it, and it's frightening sometimes. Yeah. So it does create anxiety, but it's working out, actually, I don't need to feel anxious about those things.
Yeah.
You know, and again, at menopause, everything is changing. So one day will look very different to the next day, and it doesn't make sense. So it makes you feel anxious, because then you start to think, oh my God, what is tomorrow going to be like? How am I going to feel tomorrow if I feel this bad today? And I didn't, and I could have all these things going on. But it's just being able to go, okay, yeah, that could be true, but let's just break that down. What am I actually feeling today? What is making me feel bad? So what could I change just a little bit that will make that feel better?
Yeah.
And sometimes just accepting that one day you feel more anxious than another. But I always do the weird thing of, just when I feel really anxious, I do that. What's making me feel anxious? What can I do about it?
Mm.
And it's like, it's the small child in me that wants attention because they're worried about something. It's like, okay, so it's just about me actually listening to what my mind is worried about and working out what can I do about it. And sometimes it is, actually, I can't do anything about that, so I have to stop worrying about it.
Yeah.
And finding the evidence. Is there evidence for me to be worried about that? No. Okay, then I can park it. And sometimes I just write everything down. I go through days, I just write it all down. Everything that's worrying me or bothering me, I write it down.
I've started doing that just so I can keep on track of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you don't need to worry about it, because it's out of your mind. You can almost say to your mind, say to that child inside, it's all right, we've got this. Thanks for reminding me. Got it, I've written it down. We can now relax.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
And what we can do you practice mindfulness or meditation?
I do. Yeah, I do try when I get time. Even if I just laying down and do my deep breathings, I try that. Yeah, that's why I fell asleep today.
But that's good, because you needed it. Sometimes do the deep breathing. I do it when I'm boiling the kettle. I will go, oh God, it's all too much for me. Go away, fill the kettle up as maximum. It's not very good on energy or sustainability, and boil it. So it's got a long boil on it. And I will just stand there and do some deep breathing. If it's not pouring with rain, I'll go outside. So I'm grounded on the earth, and I do that and come back in. And then it's like, okay, I feel much better now, because I've managed to take all of that pressure off of my parasympathetic system.
Yeah.
I've calmed it down.
Yeah. Yeah, breathing really helps me. I didn't think it would. Actually, I was doing it while I had my little stress test today at the chiropractor's, and obviously it does help.
Probably helps, yeah. It's finding that evidence and just using that tool when you need to. So write the stuff down and then do your breathing, and you can go, release it all.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you.
That's all right. Let me stop this recording.